Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and recently I made a few videos talking about translation problems, how things can get misunderstood in the translation process between languages, and how it can result in unintended comedy. And today I want to talk about something related but more specific about character names, and especially in science fiction movies and shows, they often invent all kinds of exotic sounding names that wouldn't sound like a normal name from English, instead some kind of alien name. And very often it accidentally sounds similar to actual words in other languages, and that can create all kinds of funny situations. And I will give you just a few examples. I personally know Hebrew and Russian as well as English, and so a lot of times all kinds of names in Star Trek sound like something else. And my first example is in Star Trek TNG. Worf always said that his father's name is Mog, and he often introduced himself as Worf, son of Mog. And I always found that a little bit funny because in Hebrew, the word Moglev, which means heart of Mog, means a coward. It means someone who is cowardly. They say he has the heart of Mog. And so whenever I heard Worf say he's the son of Mog, and so in Hebrew it sounds as if he's calling himself a coward. And it was so strange and funny for Worf, who often said how brave he is, how being a coward is the most terrible thing for a Klingon, and he would get totally offended if someone called him a coward. That's like the worst curse for him. And yet he refers to himself as son of Mog, which in Hebrew sounds very similar to him calling himself a coward. So that's my first example. Later in Deep Space Nine we had that Klingon General Martok, who was a great Klingon by the way, but his name also sounds kind of funny in Hebrew because the word sweet in Hebrew is matok, and the word bitter is mar. And if you connect them, then it's martok. So whenever I heard his name, it sounds as if he's bittersweet. That's how it sounds like in Hebrew. And so his name also was kind of funny. Of course, I got used to that, and so I don't even think about it later and so on. But I remember the first time a lot of these alien names often sound very silly in Hebrew or Russian. And with Russian, I remember Nog was really funny in Russian because it's similar, his name is similar to the word leg in Russian, which is Naga. And it wasn't really a big deal until season 7 of Deep Space Nine, when there was a whole episode about Nog losing his leg. And I never watched that with Russian dubbing, but I'm guessing it would probably sound very funny because it sounds very similar. So hearing that Nog lost a leg in Russian would sound Nog потерял ногу. And so it's like a leg lost his leg, and so it would just sound so ridiculous and so funny unintentionally. And so this is another example of a name that would sound silly in another language, in Russian. And also the name Odo sounds a little bit silly in Hebrew because it's similar to Hodo, which means a turkey, you know, the bird. Turkey, it sounds almost identical to Odo, and so this is also kind of unintentionally funny when you hear it in this language. The funniest example, I remember my dad used to laugh about Cisco, about Cisco's name, because in Russian it sounds very similar to the word siska, which is a tit, you know, tits. It's siska. So that's how he always called Cisco. He always poked fun at that name, so he always said he's Siska. I got so used to it, I'm not even thinking about it right now, but as a kid I remember we used to laugh about those kinds of stuff all the time. You know, a kid always finds the silliest thing funny, and so I remember I used to laugh at all the names and all of that. And so Cisco is similar to Siska, Nog is similar to leg, Martok is like bittersweet, Worf son of Mog is like the son of a coward, Odo sounds like a turkey in Hebrew, and Kira Naris always sounded like a Russian name because Kira is actually a very common Russian name. And Naris sounds kind of cute in Hebrew because it's similar to the word narkis, which is a kind of flower. So Naris is similar to narkis, and so it sounds like something flowery, and so that's actually kind of a cute name. Jadzia, I think, is the only kind of exotic alien name which is both beautiful and doesn't sound like any word in any language that I know, and so that's actually kind of a nice name. Quirk, of course, is a particle name, and it also reminds me of that dog in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and so I always laughed at that. And I have a lot of examples of words which sound cool in English, but don't sound as cool in other languages, or even in the original language where that word came from. For example, the word golem which is that clay monster which came to life and all of that. And in English, they always use that word to describe some kind of monster like that, and even an android in the case of Star Trek Picard. They had that android body which you can transmit someone's brain into, and they called it a golem, and they kept saying golem as if it's something cool. It sounds cool in English, but in modern Hebrew, it's not a word that sounds cool because it's actually something they use as a curse word to describe someone stupid. They say a golem is someone without a brain. It's like a dummy, a dumb person, especially if it's a big and dumb person, then they call him golem as a name to insult him. And so it's not really used nowadays, at least, as a word to describe something menacing or cool or scary. Instead, it's a word to describe someone stupid in today's Hebrew. And so to hear it in English being said as if it's something cool is kind of ridiculous to someone like me who knows its meaning as saying someone is stupid. And so, if they say Picard is a golem in the next season, I will just laugh at that because to me it sounds ridiculous, because that's actually the word used as an insult nowadays. Other examples of cool words in English from Hebrew, the word Armageddon, which often people say is, the end of days and all of that. It sounds very cool in English, but the meaning of the word in Hebrew, it's actually two words. It's Har Mageddon, which is a mountain of Mageddon or Megiddo. And it just doesn't sound cool in Hebrew at all. It's like it's simply a description of a place, which is a real place, by the way, of where the final battle would be, but it doesn't really describe the battle itself like in English. In English, it's like not even having to do with the Bible. It's some kind of apocalyptic event, the Armageddon, and they say it as if it's like the end of days always, and it sounds cool in English. But in Hebrew, it's like a description of a place. It's like a street address. And the funniest part is that that mountain itself, I've been there a few times. It's not even a mountain, it's like a small hill, and so it's kind of pathetic. And so knowing that, to me, that word kind of sounds pathetic and ridiculous and not as cool as it sounds in English. So these were just a few examples. If I sit down and think about it, I can probably find a whole bunch of alien names from Star Trek which would sound ridiculous in other languages. I think there was even a Deep Space Nine episode when they addressed this problem, when when O'Brien and Keiko were trying to find a name for their new son in Deep Space Nine, and every name they thought of was similar to something silly in some alien language, either in Bajoran or other languages. Every name they want to pick would sound like something bad in that other language, like I think they said Sean means swamp in Bajoran, and so they had a trouble of picking a name which wouldn't sound ridiculous in another language. And so I remember that because it's something I experienced personally, because of all those silly sounding names in Star Trek, which often have meaning in other languages. So anyway, I just wanted to share this little story because I don't think anyone on YouTube really talked about these issues, not that I could find, and so I decided why not share some of my unique perspective on these topics. And this is not going to be a regular thing. I'm going to go back to making normal reviews very soon. I just wanted to finish telling all these unique stories from my unique perspective of someone who knows other languages and how it was like for me. So probably the funniest story is how I viewed Worf always proudly saying that he's the son of Mog, but in Hebrew it sounds as if he's calling himself a coward, which of course is something that would be a total insult. And so I remember I found it kind of strange and funny because it was so strange to me as a kid, because I know Mog Lev is, it means a coward, and so that's something I remember kind of bugged me as a kid. And I was even wishing, like, why couldn't they pick some other name? This is so annoying. This is like the worst possible name to pick for the father of Worf, because he often says, I'm the son of Mog, and that always kind of pissed me off a little bit. So anyway, I just wanted to share these stories, and also Nog's name sounding similar to a leg, and then he actually loses a leg. I remember, I think I watched it with my parents, and they also laughed at that. And I even remember they thought it was deliberate. It was a deliberate joke because maybe someone on the production heard that Nog is similar to a leg in Russian, and so they decided to make him lose a leg. I mean, why not an arm? Why not another character? No, specifically Nog is the one to lose a leg, which sounds really similar to Nog. So I remember they laughed at that also. And when I was a kid, I was always watching Star Trek with my whole family. It was an all-family show, and it's one of my problems with the new Star Trek shows, which are not really family friendly. I mean, they're showing us sex scenes and all kinds of gory scenes and stuff like that. And if I would ever want to watch it with my kids, would I really show them all that kind of stuff if it's a little kid? I don't think so. And so this is why one of the many reasons that I think the new Star Trek shows would never be successful like the old ones, because the old ones used to be for the whole family. But anyway, I'm getting off topic, so I'll be back to making normal reviews very shortly. I just wanted to tell these few stories which are more unique from my unique perspective. So let me know what you think, that you enjoy these videos. If you have any questions, ask me and we can discuss it in the comment section below. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.